Biscuits with Bosses is supported in part by Off Duty Thanks, a gift and apparel brand that invites connection while respecting boundaries. Listeners might enjoy the Off Duty Producer t shirt if you are an entrepreneur like me, especially when attending film festivals or markets. Imagine you're at a networking event and you want to start shaking hands, but you don't know where to start. By wearing an Off Duty Producer shirt, you invite people to approach you and ask you about it. Now you're meeting more people in a shorter amount of time, but you also have the ability to keep the interaction brief. Just grab that contact info and make a date for a more thorough conversation over coffee or tea and biscuits. Right now, Off Duty currently offers apparel for actors, artists, cinematographers, composers, directors, designers, editors, musicians, producers, and writers. However, if you need a permission slip to say no, you can just choose the original Off Duty Thanks apparel. It's a wonderful gift for anyone looking to rest and rejuvenate. Just a heads up, everybody, these are adults having adult conversations, so there is the possibility of adult language. Hey there, party people. Welcome to Biscuits with Bosses by Owl Echo Entertainment. It's the podcast where we get to know leaders in the film and television industry over a spot of tea and biscuits. I am your host, Kay Ross, writer, filmmaker, founder of Owl Echo Entertainment. Now, I have been in the industry in some form for the past 20 years. So theater, television, film, and I gotta tell you, I am still learning. I'm still growing. 6 years ago, I did move away from my hometown in Washington, D.C. in search for something more than just my original trajectory to become a production manager in television. Now, I chose Los Angeles to pursue the more creative side. I knew I wanted to write and direct, but honestly, I never imagined I would have to become an entrepreneur to do that. I'd have to become a boss. Since moving here, I've been on so many coffee dates and honestly just met some truly incredible people. But the industry moves so fast. So now is the time to share what I'm learning as I learn it. And I want to get to know the leaders in the industry the only way I know how. Ted Lasso style. Now, every week we chat with a new guest who is an active influence in the media industry. We get to see the human side behind the role. We get to celebrate our victories together on our way to that big success. And we get to explore what we can do to elevate how we do business, inside and out. So this podcast is intended for professionals in the entertainment industry, but also fellow entrepreneurs. We want to learn from each other. So go ahead and grab your favorite drink, tea, coffee, water, we don't judge here, and join us. Now, we would love to actually hear from you. So if you have anything you're celebrating, feel free to let us know. If you have any questions for our guests, just leave it in the comments below. Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
You know, it's good. It's going to be a good day. I put it on gallery view because I wanted to be able to see both of us, but
Okay.
I'm going to try a thing because I'm on LinkedIn and I know I put in a new code for Instagram and it does not seem
Okay.
to be streaming. However, if we're on LinkedIn, it'll show both of us at the same time, which I kind of think
Okay.
I like better.
Let me let everyone know on LinkedIn that we are live.
Yeah, man.
Is it on
Yeah.
your personal page or the Al Echo page?
That is a great question. Since I
Okay.
just made the Owl Echo page, I'm thinking I have not yet connected it. So
Gotcha.
that it may be still on mine. Um, all right. Before we go too much further, allow me to just say happy Thursday.
Well,
Cheers.
thank you. Cheers.
Oh man. And I feel like, are we both drinking water?
Yes. Hydrate.
hmm Some days it's tea, some days you need the coffee, some days maybe you drink at three. No. But today we gotta stick with water. Um, For those of you who are just now chiming in, welcome. My name is Kay Ross, screenwriter, producer, story coach, but otherwise known as the CEO of Owl Echo Entertainment. We're an up-and-coming production company here in LA. And welcome to our weekly Biscuits with the Boss. Or in this case, bosses, because what once started out as I had an intern who needed mentoring, and I wanted to make sure that we actually had like a dedicated mentoring time and I really hate saying things multiple times, even though I definitely say it multiple times. I just thought, let's do it all together. I'll just, whatever brilliant things come out of my mouth, we'll just share with the world. But the truth is, I am very good with production, and our production company is very savvy with film and television production. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I'm actually very new to the business. So I'd love to be the mentee now and learn from other, entrepreneurs, especially in the creative space, to see what you guys are doing so well. Um, with me today, Raven, who is a longtime friend of mine. But she's also the Chief Administrative Officer and founder of Victory Administration, which I have to give mad props to because I personally would not have been able to make it through this year had it not been for this lovely woman right here. Thank you so much for being with us, Raven.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. So excited. That's why I was just sharing on LinkedIn. I was like, come talk to us. We're here. Super excited to have this conversation today.
Well, I usually lead the dance with something ice breaking, but I feel
Mhm.
like we know each other fairly well. But the great thing about ice breaking questions is that sometimes we actually learn things about people you still already know. So I'm gonna go old school Ted Lasso and ask first concert, best concert.
First concert was, I think, was the Scream tour. Like back when I was a teenager, and it was like when Bow Wow was still Lil Bow Wow and B2K and like that whole scene. That was my first concert. Um, Best concert was not surprisingly, but when I took my mom, I think for Mother's Day to see New Edition.
Oh,
And it was such a great concert for a number of reasons, but they obviously didn't need any openers because there are so many subgroups and solo acts that came out of that group that they were kind of their own openers. And but they put on such a great show, and I love community just as a person, and I love diverse communities. So when I was there was such a huge range of people, like age range specifically of people, because you had people who were listening to New Edition at 12 to 15 years old, and then you had people who were listening to New Edition when they were 25, 30. So and they were all there. Of course my mom and I were both there, so that was a broad range, but that was probably the best concert. It was a really, like I said, a really good show, but just this sense of community was really sweet.
I love that so much. Uh, when you said that, I was like, because I've whinged back and forth on what my favorite one is. My first one's easy because my mother took me as if to give me training wheels for my first concert. She was like, "We
uh
could just break you in." So we did Beach Boys at like a King's Dominion or something, and I was like, "Yep, this feels like a mother-daughter concert." Um, but most recently, I was able to finally see Erykah Badu in concert, and I had
mm,
adored her music for so long, and her tickets tend to be pretty pricey. And she has such a stage presence, um, that you knew it was just going to be an enjoyable show. But at some
mhm,
point during the show, first off, we are surrounded by all sorts of people. Black, white, polka dot, all of our age ranges, and they're all loving on each other and like celebrating each other as things go on, which makes my heart so happy. But at some point, somebody in the pit area like falls, and other people are like trying to get them help, and she sees it. She sees the
mhm,
audience and that they're trying to get help, and she stops everything and asks like people to basically like pray for them and give them space. And
mhm,
all I remember, because I was like, this is a beautiful moment. I
mhm.
remember her saying, just remember that we're all spiritual beings first and human beings second. And I was like, yep, this
Wow.
is a good moment. Thanks, Erica.
Wow. That sounds very, very Erykah Badu. Yes, I love that.
Right. Um, but I love that. I love that community is part of what you
Mhm.
so enjoyed
Yeah.
about your
Yeah, because
concert.
art brings people together. Like
Yeah.
that's it. And it doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't matter the medium. Like it brings people together.
Yep. Totally agree. All right. I did the first strike of ice breaking.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite ice breaking question when you're working with creatives?
Um, no, but I feel like a good one for creatives would be, did you have at any point an aha moment where you knew that art or art spaces were where you were supposed to be?
Mm, hmm. The easy answer is yes. And that is why I'm both a writer and a producer. Um, Sometimes my logical brain just wins out. So I have been in theater of a form since middle school, and I was
Hmm.
born into a family of actors and educators. And yet, I did not have my aha moment until junior or senior year. So, for the most part, I had been doing behind the scenes stuff. So, lighting, stage management, costumes, sets, always behind the scenes. But part
Hmm.
of what I started to feel was I would like to be on stage, but I have no interest in competing. I'm interested in doing,
Hmm.
but everything else is kind of politics. Um, so I was doing a little bit on stage for like classes, but I would never audition. And then it must have been the fall of my junior year. I remember seeing one of our fall one acts, and one of the one acts was about two Irish brothers because in the 90s the conflict in Ireland was a big deal.
Hmm.
As you can then see by, Brad Pitt's, foray into doing an Irish accent. I don't remember the movie. I just remember him performing with Harrison Ford going, I know you guys are trying real hard. And I know this is an important issue, but anyway, so we have two actors attempting to also do their Irish accents.
Hmm.
And in this particular scene, one has decided to join up with the local army, and the other one is like, "You're going to die. Like,
Hmm.
it's not a fight you can win." And
Hmm.
there's something emotionally missing from this moment. And I can't, the whole rule of theater at that point was um, the theater director is the only director. So
Hmm.
kids can be everything else, including like stage managers and like set designers. Like we were really, it's mind-boggling how many of us from that generation became professionals in the industry because we were
Hmm.
allowed to do really good work. Except one,
Hmm.
except that
Hmm.
one. Well, but I was watching and I was noting. And in that moment, I felt something and I put two and two together about how I could feel more. And I knew one of the actors enough. So we started talking and I was like, "So how do you feel about that moment?" And he was like, "Mm." And I was like, "Do you want to try something?" And he's like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I'll take any information I can get." And he's like, and so I said, "So this moment is less about your decision and more about your choice, meaning you could
Hmm.
go in one direction or the other. And while you as an actor know where you're going, we don't." And I said, "So if you want to play with something, I would say play with the pause, play with the anticipation of what are you going to do next?" And I said, "And when you're there, eye contact, because the only place you can find that answer is in the person you're talking to, because the what we see on stage is him having the conversation and then him running away in a huff. So he makes a decision, right? But the huff means nothing if we don't understand the turmoil before he leaves. Um, and not only did he take the note, he thanked me for it afterwards. And I just thought in that moment, I was like, yep, this is what I should be.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
because it wasn't just that I observed it, and it wasn't just that I had something I could contribute. It was that I could articulate emotionally what was missing, and I could foster it in a way where it still felt like him, like it came
Hmm.
from him. I gave him, guidelines, but he could still, work with it. And
Hmm.
I did that at 17, you know. Um, and the tricky bit about being a director is that it's you don't get a lot of work as a director. So you have to find other things to kind of keep the work going, which is why writing helps, right? Which is why
Hmm.
editing helps, which is why producing helps. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I've been circling the directing drain for a really long time. And partly because I think that the aha was more about him being receptive to my feedback and less about
Hmm.
I'm really good at deducing how to elevate the emotional, quality of this scene.
Hmm.
And it took going to film school and it took doing my own things to be like, oh no, yeah,
Hmm.
it's also me. It's not just them. So
Hmm.
that was my that was my first aha, and I cling to
Hmm.
it pretty hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that for me, I think that I had a couple over the course of my career, but they all taught me different things. I think that the very first one though was the first time I got on stage. And
Mm,
like maybe this is cliche, but the feeling, the rush that I get when I get under lights was just unmatched. I had never experienced anything like that. So I literally stepped on stage and like felt myself come alive, right? Like I said, just kind of cliche, but I felt myself come alive. And even when I did musical theater and I would be in an ensemble, people don't always pinpoint ensemble members. But there were so many occasions where I would come out after the show and people would be like, you were so great. Like you just stood out so much. And I was like, I mean, I was doing the same choreo as everybody else. But I think that what it was is just that life. Like I did feel like I was on stage by myself sometimes, or things like that. But I think that just the feeling of coming alive the first time I really stepped on stage underneath the lights. And I think that the second was I worked with a director named Frank Kuhn. He was incredible. He is an incredible director. And I remember I was on stage and we were doing notes and he was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to do some acting." And I was like, "I am an actor, what?" But but I was doing a straight play. And so having come from musical theater where you can hide behind singing and dancing.
mm,
Um, and him pushing me, kind of like you were saying, right? When it comes to taking the notes and doing different things, him pushing me, and just that simple note, right? Like I will never forget that. Like I was shocked and appalled. I was clutching my pearls. I could not believe it. But like that was the note. Was like you essentially, right? For me, it was you don't have to box yourself in, right? Realizing that acting truly was embodying my character, right? Because a lot of times in musical theater I was just myself, right? Like I would
yeah,
be, especially in ensemble, I was doing different things and I was having a good time, but fully embodying this character, finding where they intersected with your life, make finding out what my process was, like all of that came from his one note. His You're gonna have to do some acting. Like the show was in Roanoke, Virginia. I went like the next day before rehearsal. I went up to the top of Mill Mountain and sat down. It's a beautiful overlook, and I wrote my character's backstory. I had
mm,
never done anything like that before, but him saying you're gonna have to do some acting was probably the most pivotal moment in my career because it made me learn what my process was. There was nothing else for me to hide behind. I
yeah.
had to learn my process.
Oh, I love that so much. I feel like that actually naturally segues into because you're all about process now. Um,
Yes.
a little like origin story of like how you went from the industry to running your own business.
um, I wanted the bottom line of it, honestly, is that I wanted a certain life for my family.
Mm,
And that wasn't necessarily financially, it was presence.
yeah.
When I decided to start Victory, formerly All Things Admin, but when I decided to go into business for myself, I was teaching high school theater. I loved it. Like to be clear, I absolutely loved being an educator. Um, I loved it, but I was at work a lot. I was at work a lot. Of course, as a teacher, I was bringing my work home with me, and my husband and I got engaged, and I was like, "What do I want for us?" And the answer was not giving. I wanted to be more present with my family than I was with my job. And I think that I would have felt that way regardless of, like, it just so happened that I was teaching. in the art sector at the time, but I think that I would have felt that way whether I was full-time on set, whether I was still in casting, which is where you and I met. I don't think it would have mattered because there is a lot of times we kind of eat, sleep, and breathe our work
Yeah.
when you work in entertainment. And I wanted a certain presence. So pre-COVID, I actually started Victory working remote. Um, but that was what it was. I desired a certain quality of life for my family that involved my physical presence.
Yeah, man. Um, which kudos if I don't say it enough, there's gonna be a lot of victory rounds for victory administration, but also cheers to your time teaching because I think it was the same year I was teaching, right? We both had our like 1 year.
I think so. I think so. Yes. And like I said, incredible. Like I loved it. I loved working with my students, but I was like, it is teaching is if you allow it to be, it can be the greatest heart-led work.
Yeah.
But the thing about heart-led work is that you don't leave it. You don't leave work. I was thinking about my students at home. I was, lesson planning, and I was like I said, it took me away. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally
But
understand.
when I started Victory, I actually was not working in the entertainment realm. I was just doing admin for different companies. And then I got my first creative client. And it was almost, I felt like home. It was almost that same feeling of when I got under the stage lights for the first time. And I was like, this doesn't feel like work. This is where I need to be. This is where I want to grow. This is where I want to thrive. This is where I can always learn because entertainment is so vast. And people don't realize that. But entertainment is so vast. And so even after all these years of working with Victory, running Victory as it is, right? As an arts organization, I'm still learning literally every day. I feel like I learned something new about entertainment, about clients, about industry, about business, about myself as a professional, right? Like it can be hard as a business owner
Yeah.
to professionally develop
Mm,
because you're not getting an evaluation every 30, 60, and 90 days.
right?
You're not getting an annual evaluation. You might not be getting a merit raise every year.
Right.
um, so that professional development piece can be difficult, but I have found ways to continuously grow just in my field, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, man. Interesting enough, Ashley Morgan, thank you so much for your question. She asked, how do you find balance between family and career? And I feel like you kind of touched on that, but especially now that you've definitely found a groove, I think,
Mhm.
with Victory and the services that you offer. But yeah, how did you kind of craft the business and do it in such a way that you could continue to to show up for your family?
I think that first and foremost, and I'm a huge advocate in any area of my life, first and foremost is self-awareness.
Mm,
I teach and preach self-awareness in every area because I truly think that that is the beginning of everything that you're ever going to do is knowing yourself.
yeah.
So self-awareness, simple things like when are you your best self? For me, it's early in the morning. So it takes everything in me. You're in LA, it takes everything in me not to text you at 6 a.m. Now, that's not to say I haven't scheduled a couple text messages to go out to you at 12 p.m. my time, so you get them at noon, I mean at 9. But I'm my best self early in the morning.
Yeah.
So while my family is sleeping, I will get up, I'll attack things. Sometimes it's the like projects that I really need to focus on. Some things it's the project, sometimes it's the projects that intimidate me. But I think that self-awareness is first and foremost, knowing, like I said, knowing yourself. When are you your best self? Is it in the morning? Knowing what your boundaries are, and I don't just mean walking away from work. Like, honestly, it's not always realistic, especially for me, like in entertainment. It's not always realistic to say, I'm not going to answer a text message after 6 p.m. Again, I have clients in LA. It's 3 o'clock for y'all. I can't make that rule.
Yep.
But I can say, I'm feeling a certain type of way. Can I take 30 minutes? When do I need to go and bring my daughter into the office with me? I block my calendar from 10 to 12 every day.
Hmm.
And it's literally just for my daughter's learning time. Now, I'm still available, but you will very rarely see me in a meeting during those hours
Mhm.
because I'm out with her. We're at the zoo, we're at the library, We are painting outside. That's one of her current favorite things. We're doing something that involves me and her focusing on one another. Like I said, if there's an urgent email, text message, cool. Like I'm here. But in terms of, again, that presence, like I'm not in meetings, I'm not preparing for meetings during that time frame.
Yeah.
But I think being self-aware, I also think knowing what your why is. I think again that's cliche, but for me, my family was my why. So for me to put them on the back burner for my work, my Victory is my baby. I love my company. But for me to put my husband, my daughter, even my dog on the
Mm.
back burner for my work is doing them a disservice if I'm claiming that I'm doing this business for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And what a beautiful like come back around, because I feel like if balance really is the key word in this question, that some part of it also has to be a recognition of like I want, right? Because I heard you say that earlier when you
Mm-hmm.
were like, this is where I want to go and this is the kind of work I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can only have an I want statement if you have that self-awareness. But also with full recognition that you cannot sacrifice too much of who you are or what you do in either direction in
Mm-hmm.
order to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just what a beautiful reflection on like if family is your reason, then you cannot overcompensate and you cannot, you know, be completely available either because, you'll slowly die and that's terrible.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that in business, you really do, or in life, I guess in general, you really do have to be careful. Because if we are not careful, our families, because they're the closest to us, are the first people that we will essentially what we're doing is that we will assume will understand, right?
Mm,
So sometimes you'll take a meeting or a lunch or a big project because my family will understand, right? Even if you don't articulate it that way specifically, if we're not careful, we can scoot our families aside. And again, this is depending on your why, right? But if you're not careful, you can scoot your family or your friends, right? Insert community that in this case, but you can scoot them to the side because you know they'll understand, right?
yeah.
You know that those are the people that gotta have your back. They are gotta you feel like they're obligated, but in a way that your colleagues may not be. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
just being mindful of that.
I love that so much. And thank you, Ashley, for that question. I deeply appreciate that you're here and you're present. And she says self-awareness and boundaries. That's really good. I agree. I wholeheartedly
Mhm.
agree. Just because you're so good about being cognizant of time, how much longer do I have you? Can I ask you a couple more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And I know
Um,
I have on a couple minutes late, so for sure.
oh, no, no worries. And really, because this originally started out with mentoring time for my intern, and we're kind of switching gears into me being the mentee, I feel like, we're gonna kind of figure out the timing of this as we go along.
Yeah, true.
Um, which I kind of brings me to my next question, which is certainly as an entrepreneur, I think part of what's been hard for me is the transition from contractor to entrepreneur,
Hmm.
because the contractor, it's kind of up to me mentality, right? There's a
Hmm.
project that needs to get done. If timing is off, I stop everything and get it done. And I have no one to delegate it to because I'm the delegatee.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's the shift that happens when suddenly you have to delegate things.
Hmm.
So I'm curious about like how you handled the transition from contractor to entrepreneur.
Um, that's a really good question. I think that one of those things is finding training within your contracts first.
Mm.
And what I mean is sometimes I would get delegated projects, even now, because of course I'm still in a very client facing role, even as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
But if I get something from a client, I'm I can be thinking about how is this applicable for me as a CEO or CAO in my case? How is this applicable? So if I have a client that's like, hey, can you talk to these three people and get them on board with this project? then that is now me. Yes, I'm doing this assignment for them, but that's me learning how I manage.
Yeah.
That's me learning my management style. So even like, for example, with you, when you doing sanctuary as a producer, like figuring out, like really watching yourself, right? Like, okay, how are people responding to me? How am I responding in high stress situations? Film is kind of a constant high stress situation, but how am I responding in high stress situations? Are my shoulders up here? Are they down here? But all of that is going to feed into your business, because there are going to be times where you're going to have to make decisions on the fly. You're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have difficult conversations. I think that the other thing is just trusting the process, because it is indeed a process, especially like for you coming, like you said, from being a delegatee. Trusting the process, trusting yourself, um, and constantly learning, finding ways, finding mentors. I am an advocate for mentors that you know. I don't
Mm.
like to just go out and find people because they said they're good at something, because I don't actually know if you're good at it. So I'm an advocate for mentors that I know, right? I've watched you, I've worked with you, or whatever. And then, hey, can you mentor me? Is a big thing. But I think the main thing is recognizing where you're hiding. So for me, because I'm usually in the background making things run, being the face of my company was a huge transition for me. I just did the first workshop, and putting my picture on the flyer took me like a month and a half to drop that flyer because I was like, no, I'm not the face. I'm not the face. I'm behind the scenes. No, you are the face. You're an
You are.
entrepreneur, right? You run this company. You indeed are the face. But trusting yourself, trusting the process, like I said, reminding yourself of who you are, because that's the thing. Like, I am the CEO of Out Echo Entertainment. I am, such and such. Like, that's who I am. It doesn't matter what I try to tell myself. That's what my email signature says. That's what my business card says. That's who I am. But making sure that you are not allowing yourself to talk you down from the
Yeah.
position that you're
Yeah. It's, it's amazing how sometimes you have to listen to the advice that you give other people.
in.
I swear I said that to somebody else the other day. I was like, no, no, because this is who you are. And if you, it was something silly. Like I've seen CEOs do silly things like build IKEA furniture, which I can get a PA to do. And it's like, no, look how, humble and down to earth I am. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, or you've decided to do something simple because you're afraid of doing the hard thing. And everybody here is relying on you to do the hard thing. So please
Mm-hmm.
go and do the one thing that no one else here can do.
Mm-hmm.
Please, for the love of all things good.
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's so I take that advice with a hearty spoonful of medicine, reminding myself that like I have definitely said it to other people and I will have to remember it for myself. Because you're not wrong. And I think that does make it easier to delegate for sure. I feel like the other question that has been bobbling around my head, um, because I feel like to your point, when I know people, it either makes things infinitely easier or infinitely harder. Um, and the breakaway point in entrepreneurship is when you stop selling and to the people you know and you start selling to the masses. So like right now I'm in that place where like I am definitely working on word of mouth. I've got enough projects going on where it's like, let me, stoke the fires of the people that I know who are closest to me, because I would rather build up and make those relationships strong before I have numbers in mass and I have no one to speak on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, that means that at some point you have to make a marketing plan. And I just laugh because the whole thing is just ridiculous to me. I'm such a, and I know but like marketing is either reach or impact. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, impact is everything. I don't care how many people I reach, and then only 0.2% of those people actually click on the thing. What is the point? Talk to the people. Like, pick up a phone or text somebody or, make sure you reach them and get a real answer. Impact has
Mm-hmm.
always been my strategy. But that's not how entrepreneurship works. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
actually have a marketing strategy and a budget and blah. So when
Mm-hmm.
you were faced with leveling up and starting your marketing strategy, how did you how much time did you give yourself? How much money did you give yourself? How much like grace did you give yourself?
um at the beginning of marketing, I did not give myself I did not invest a whole lot. I
Mm,
utilized my team. I have an incredible social media intern, Amari Mitchell. I don't know if she's watching, but I have an incredible social media intern. So the first thing I did, she's gifted when it comes to creating assets. I was like, hey, here's what we need. I did invest in new brand marketing photos because, as I mentioned, now for the workshop specifically, I had to start marketing myself. And I was like, do I have the photos I want? The answer was
mm.
no, I didn't. So figuring out first what you need again to feel like your best self. For me, I needed new photos. Like my last set, my locks were like, I don't know, maybe shoulder length. Like that's not even me anymore. Um, so but like also there has been a change in my confidence level that is like if I did a side by side from my first brand shoot to now, you can see that it's not the same person, and not just like age and maturity, but also like the level of confidence that I have. So I knew that that was what I wanted to portray. For me, what made marketing easy and go was that I marketed first because I've actually never marketed my client services. Um, Give me one. I'm so sorry. One second.
No, no worries. Y'all, this is just what happens when you're not.
Yes.
Uh,
Um, okay. And we're back. Um, for me, so I never had to market my actual um administrative services, like you mentioned, word of mouth. Now, it wasn't for me, it wasn't family and friends necessarily, but I never marketed it word of mouth. Thankfully, just kind of got passed along. But the workshops, I had to find a community, I had to find an audience. But I am so passionate about getting this information out that it made marketing come easy to me in terms of having the confidence to put the information out, having the confidence to have the conversations, because I was so passionate about this particular facet of my business. So I think that if you need to break it down a little bit, and like maybe you don't market all of Al Echo's projects at one time or all of Al Echo's service offerings, maybe you figure out what you love. Like if it's Break My Story, because I think you really love Break My Story.
yeah, the break my story has been so fun. As you've been talking, I've been like, yep, this. And to your point earlier, also, it just took time, right? Because
Yes.
there are lots of things I can do, but that's the contractor in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the cast a wide net and then see how the dust settles. And literally in the last 9 months, the dust has settled around this one thing. And it was true within my projects. It was true within, even the work I do with writers on stage 32. And then I got a handful of clients over the summer, and I was like, y'all, there's something here. And the more I could do the same thing repeatedly,
Mm-hmm.
the more I could make the process. So when you talked about the process on the hill, I was like, I'm like, and the more I can make it into a process, the more I can shrink the time and build the assets around it and all the things I need to do to just focus on marketing that one thing. So you're spot on. You're spot on.
Yeah, I think just breaking things down is such an undervalued thing. It's funny because my daughter watches a lot of PBS Kids, and that is that's such a recurring theme, right? Take a step back, break it down, but it's truly applicable, right? Like I said, I never marketed Victory as a whole or individual services. Every now and then, like if I was thinking about launching a new service, I might, or adding a new service, I might say like, hey, does anybody want to test this? But the when I started doing the business of creativity workshops, I just was so it was so important to me for this to reach people
Yeah.
that, like I said, it is still a driving force. Like I don't mind doing outreach now. I don't mind having conversations. I took my daughter to a visual art center earlier this week that I didn't know was there. We were going to go to a new library, and it shared a parking lot with a visual art center. So I took her in there, and we were just walking around. She was enjoying looking at the pieces, and I saw a sign that said they did classes. Like it directed you upstairs to where classes and workshops are. And I was like, hey, I talked to the gallery manager and actually got her info. She was interested in a workshop. But a year ago, I would have never been like, went in there and been like, do you guys need administrative services? Like, I would have never done that. Um,
I love that
but it
so
was
much.
really, like I said, just the passion of like, they have a community that needs this.
Yeah.
Um, that's been driving me because that's marketing as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, kind of let the audience lead the marketing. That is a really
Mm-hmm.
good idea. Um, and if I haven't said it enough, thank you for being the anchoring force to the creative mind, because even now I'm like, I've been the anchor for so many other people, but as I begin to create things and even create my business, which even if you don't identify as a creative person, the act of creating your business is
Mm-hmm.
in itself like your brain. I'm not ADHD, I don't think, but but my brain goes in five different directions at the same time when
Mm-hmm.
certain things are mentioned, because the opportunities are endless
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for not just being able to relate to that as a fellow entrepreneur, but like then when working with us, like you very much have been that grounding force for creatives. Um, and I just to honor the final question, thank you, Ashley. By the way, I love that you're so interactive on our call today. What has been the biggest challenge in growing your business and brand? Actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna start with that one just because one of the
Yeah.
hardest challenges for growing my business has been exactly what you've been kind of filling in with, which is don't invest in stuff, invest in people. I know that sounds wild,
Mm-hmm.
but like when you said I needed pictures, it sounds like it's an asset, but the thing you had to find was actually the photographer, not the photo,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like when I have to do a shoot, I don't need to rent equipment. What I need to do is find the person who is running the camera and running sound, and they will figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can price check it, right? I can be like, how much are you charging me to rent equipment again? I can find that better over here. I have the ability to double check anything in that vein. What I do not have the ability to do is do their job better than they do. So the biggest challenge for me at least has always been stop investing in the stuff and start investing in the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I think for me, and this is definitely just a characteristic because, as you mentioned earlier, like I love a process. Literally everything I do has a process. But I think that that comes along with being a rule follower. And so for me, the biggest challenge was running with my yeses. I would have ideas, like you said, like when you're an entrepreneur, you could just, the possibilities are endless. So I would have all these ideas and tell myself, no, right? No, that doesn't work because, no, that doesn't work because. Same thing with the workshops. I don't know how long I've been telling you I've wanted to do this. And finally, I was just like, you could just do it, right? You could do it. Yes. But for me, the challenge was running with my yeses
Yeah.
because I am so systemic and I can shut myself down. I think that's been the biggest challenge. I think the second biggest challenge, and thankfully it's something that I've overcome and am steadily overcoming, is setting those boundaries, figuring things out. I think last year was my first year having company holidays. I never closed before. This year, I was closed on Monday. My wedding anniversary was Sunday, and I closed on Monday. Right, my clients know it's all listed out,
Yep.
but like that was a challenge for me. Was like setting boundaries that made me do my best work. I talked to one of my clients on Tuesday when I was back, and I didn't realize, but I had been just on go mode all morning Tuesday. She was like, "Girl, you need to take every Monday off," but but it was just finding that time to refresh,
Yeah.
but giving yourself that permission to refresh. Like I said, I last year, I think it started with me just closing for the holidays, actually the year before. And I was
Mhm.
like, this was wonderful. And so last year I had my first year of, hey, here are my company holidays. And I did, of course, the federal holidays. And then I also did the important dates in my family because
Mm.
companies have floating holidays. So
Yeah.
for me, I could just schedule them out, let everybody know, but that has been pivotal for me.
Yeah.
is taking that time to refresh. Again, making sure that my presence is felt.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Ignoring the cat fight happening off to my right now. I have to say, just tail spinning off of that because the non-negotiable time off is so important. I made the promise a long time ago that I would take Sundays off. Although what's happened with Sundays, it's because way back when you and I first knew each other, I was single. And well, actually, when we first met, I was married. But when I first started in massage, and massage is what got me through film school, I was single. And so everybody else had, significant other or child or an elderly parent, something where if they had to take something off last minute, they would call me to fill in.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
being completely flexible that way, yeah, it'll pad your bank account, but it also makes you incredibly miserable. Um, so you have to promise yourself this is the one day that is non-negotiable. Since then, it's changed to Friday night into Saturday, so I have about 36 hours that is untouchable. I do not
Hmm.
answer phone calls. I do not answer emails. No. Um, so I non-negotiable for me is definitely part of that. But on the flip side, um, and I don't even think we had to talk about it. I think we just said, so we're gonna have weekly meetings, right? Great. Okay, cool. Because
Right.
speaking of sanctuary earlier, um, it's easy on a project to wait until there's something to talk about in order to make the appointment to talk. And if you
Hmm.
wait, you'll never have something to talk about and you'll never
Hmm.
get things done. And
Hmm.
on in the process, the producers just decided, look, if we're going to run this production like a company, then we're going to meet every week, regardless of whether or not we have something to talk about, because we'll figure out something to talk about and we'll keep the momentum going.
Hmm.
Um, and it sounds like a nothing decision, but making a weekly non-negotiable meeting, regardless of what you're talking about, keeps
Hmm.
everything moving.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I don't
necessary.
even
You also learn your team that way. This virtual world that we live in can make it very difficult to learn who you're working with, which is a necessity. So
Yeah.
the reason I always push for weekly meetings with clients is because that's where I learn you. That's where I know what bothers you, what frustrates you, what makes you happy, how you look or sound when you're having a rough day. Because then I can do my job and say, let's cancel some meetings today, or hey, let's can I take something off your plate? That's when I learn those things is in those weekly meetings.
Yeah. And bless you for responding in that way, because it's so easy, I think, to just try and disconnect, especially when you're working remotely. And I hope, let's call it a residual effect of, these lives is also to just kind of remind people like, hey, if you are investing in having people as part of your company,
Hmm.
then, showing up for the people part and not just the productive part has a value as well.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, to that end, because I don't want to keep you on too long, but
Hmm. No, this has been
we
great.
haven't had a proper victory round. So is there something from the past like week that you're really proud of that you wanna celebrate?
I guess too, something that we spoke about, I decided I've been trying to figure out where I would take the business of creativity workshop to next. So like I said, I've been talking to just contacts, but I gave myself a yes, and I'm going to do the next one virtually. So I don't need a space. So, so that is my victory. I've got the content, the deck is applicable. It doesn't matter where I am. So the next one is going to be virtual. And that I gave myself a yes. Like I was like I said, talking to partners, trying to see if they would say yes. And I could say yes to me. So I'm doing a virtual workshop. I'm really excited.
So awesome. Cheers to your virtual workshop.
How
Yeah.
about for you?
Oh. Mm, we just found out about the official selection for Sanctuary. The premiere is going to be September 6th at Silicon Beach Film Festival. So I guess my biggest victory around that is sending out the word in a timely manner,
Hmm.
and keeping up with social media stuff through my company so far, knock on wood, um, as part of that, because that was always going to be the difficulty of running a company that has projects is that I'm running the company and the projects. So
Mm-hmm.
plate is just getting a little faster now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited, and I'm particularly excited that everybody else who's part of the project finally has a way to celebrate.
Yeah.
Um, because this time last year, when we did our Kickstarter campaign, it was very successful. Thank you all to you who have contributed. Yes, the perks are coming. But like because we were in the middle of a strike, our actors couldn't help promote the Kickstarter campaign. And so there's just been a lot of things that the actors really look forward to, and really even the crew have been looking forward to that haven't been able to experience yet. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited that I can foster this moment for them.
Good. I love that. I love that. Congratulations to you. Cheers to you.
Cheers. Hey. Oh man.
Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right. That being said, because you all have been so patient, have been here for so long, if you get a chance, check out Victory Administration. If I remember correct, victoryadministration.com.
That's all right.
Yes. And I cannot recommend it enough. Look, at the very least, it's worth it to just book a consultation, see what Ravenn and her amazing company can do for you. Especially if you have a creative heart to your business. She understands creatives better than anybody. And I cannot say this enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being part of my process this year. Truly invaluable. Um, and of course, if you get a chance, check out owlecho.com right now on Instagram, Owl Echo Entertainment. We're ramping up not just for the premiere, but through the rest of the summer and into the fall. Break My Feature promo is what we were talking about earlier. And basically, it's just nailing the essentials of your feature film. Because that's the headspace I'm in right now. All of our short films have become feature films. All of those are moving forward. And yeah, I'm here. The engine is ready. So if you've got an idea, let's help you nail it down. And the great part about nailing down just the essentials of your story is that if you're writing anything else, comic book, novel, it can easily be transferred into a feature film. So we're here for it, man. And we'll see you next week because we got more entrepreneurs to talk to.
Yes. Love that. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, hun. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Wherever you're listening from, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really does help. This episode is brought to you by Off Duty Thanks, a gift and apparel brand that invites connection while respecting boundaries. Wear your hat, hoodie, or t-shirt about town or to those oh so important networking events. Check out the different off-duty versions at offdutythanks.shop. And be sure to grab something for your favorite friend in the film, television, or media industry. Today's episode was also made possible by Owl Echo Entertainment. You can learn more about them and their production work at owlecho.com. Head over to owlecho.com to see what we've got coming up. New podcast episodes, events, writing workshops, and consulting services. Today's episode was hosted by yours truly, Kay Ross, co-hosted by the incomparable Matt York, produced by the amazing Lane Ewing, edited by Matt York. Yeah, he really does do everything. Opening music by The Midnight with their track America Online. And of course, follow us on Instagram and TikTok to stay in the loop. We've got plenty more coming your way. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend. Bye now.